The assembly for assignment 8 P6-7 should be pretty straightforward. So we'll go into our assembly millimeter. Need to browse for our first document is going to be the base chamber. If it goes origin to origin, we can just hit the OK. I don't need to rotate, reapply any of the mates. Remember that you can always right click and float and then change that position. But you'd only really need to float if we drew it in the top plane and needed it in the front plane or thereabouts. So that design intent is working, then I don't really have to make any changes. But it's going to happen every once in a while that we're going to have to apply those mates. All right, so next we'll insert component existing part in assembly. Bring in the gasket, and we'll just rough place it. Go face to face, whatever we can see there, coincident. And then if I were to do the outsides, or sorry, the insides or the outsides, or the inside and the outside, I think it just kind of whatever makes sense. And even though those are in position, oh, hey, look, a rotary dial phone. The last one, I do want to make sure that the pattern stays consistent, so concentric mate. If I'm off on my rounding, if I'm off on any of the geometry, that would be the one that would tell me. So if I go back to the insert component, I don't think anything's open in the File Explorer or Windows Explorer. So existing part in assembly, we'll bring in the cover plate. And we're basically doing the same thing. And apparently it didn't pop up, so let's see if it's on the S key. We can go into the mate, and it went to concentric. Alright, so we're at that kind of that strange spot where it's overlapping. That's not going to help us a whole lot, so just left click, hold down, and drag. We'll rotate out. Pretty close. Since the base chamber probably is the better selection there, we'll stay with it. All right, so we haven't had added any material. It says it's a neoprene gasket. All right, so plain carbon steel. We could go in and edit the material. Since it just says steel, for a pressure vessel, pressure cylinder, I want to say it would probably more likely be stainless, but we could go with a 1020, which would be a hot rolled, and there's no 1018 cold rolled, so maybe we'd have to make one of those if we really wanted to use that. So we'll just go with the 1020 on the base. The gasket, we'll go into its materials, see what we have available in the plastics. And not seeing any neoprene, so we'll pick a. So not really showing up in the plastics. So if I go over and do a quick search for neoprene, it tells me that it's in the rubber family. So if we wanted to call out a specific brand, or if we were going over to a gasket material, say a McMaster, and I was to type in neoprene rubber, then this might be one of the places where we could look at 1/8 of an inch with the tolerance zone, would put it in that 3mm range, and it's going to have a decent amount of crush. So since it's not specifically called out under, no, not metals, other non-metals, it just has rubber, This might be something where I would go in and create a custom material. So if I copy that and put it into the plastic's fine, and then renamed it, we're going to assume I might have to go out to MatWeb and check the physical properties, but I think we're going to be close enough um, to be able to pick it. So it gets the name in correctly and changes the color okay. So we'll go with it. I did not add the 1020, so we'll go back to the steels, and then we can close. We've got our materials in there, so we're ready for our exploded view. We can go up to the assembly and exploded view, or right click on the configuration, do a new exploded view. Oh, I forgot the bolts. So let's wait on the exploded view till I get the bolts in place. If we go into the toolbox, then we want to add in now to activate, and this is going to be the ANSI metric bolts and screws. If we stay with the machine screws, could be socket head screws, then we're going to want actually hex head, and we did a hex bolt, so let's go ahead and place that and see if we have something close to size. So it got the M8. The length stops at 40 millimeters, so gotta have to look for their definition as to why that's being generated. So let's go with the hex cap. See if there's a specific. Normally, might even put a washer underneath this. So since it starts at 12, there's a good possibility we'll get to 30. So that looks okay. When we accept it, we'll be able to populate those. And I'm going to do half with the toolbox, and if something happens that you don't have access to the toolbox, well, let's go ahead and save this as our pressure cylinder. And then we'll go look for a, if we go back to the home page, then the screws and bolts are up top. Hex head screws, and if we tell it that it is metric, don't think we need the 10.9, but it might not be a bad idea. We don't have a specification for the pressure rating, so that makes it a little questionable. So M8 by 1.25. We'll stay with the 8.8, and we want one that is 30 millimeters. So let's go ahead, and we can go into the product detail if we need it, but we can just go ahead and download it. And that puts it in our Windows folder. And then I would like to retrieve it so that it stays with the project. And we could create a cloud library of standard. So in the description, we're not getting, we're not getting everything. So we got the part number to work from. But we're going to have to track this just a little bit better for it to be a more functional library if we really need it. So, all right, so let's go ahead and open that up. And this is one of those cases where I want the mate reference. I really would just like it to behave like the toolbox. So selecting that inside edge, S key, the reference geometry, mate reference, and any and default. And then this is going to be an older version, so we'll go ahead and save it. And if I were to split or tile the horizontally, then I should be able to zoom up on those. This whole location's a little bit closer, and we're just going to drag. And let's see, I can drag from the part. Okay, and then we can also hold down the control button and drag from the assembly. Alright, so still have the origins on, so we're going to need to turn those off. Alright, so 4 and 4. Now when we do the exploded view, again you could auto space. I tend to prefer to pick. So as I'm going around and grabbing, so in that case I grabbed the X, so it got a little bit too close. I'm going to see if I can delete that out and go back into the selection set. And they're kind of turning a darker gray. So the Z now it went to Y, and doesn't look like it's going to, and definitely don't want to rotate. Alright, so let's clear the selections, delete that out. See if I can go in and drag. Oh, so Z was that way, so I was actually looking for Y. And we'll rotate over to stay away from that orbital. I'm not ready to select for it. I want to repick that one. Okay, so a little rotate and position. And we'll accept. And then drag that one up and right click to accept. And right click to accept. Alright, now if I want to go back through, then we could go into the exploded step and rotate or navigate down and go 120, and then we'll scroll up, go to exploded step 2, so 60, and done. And maybe that one doesn't need to be as tall, so 25, and done. We go ahead and accept, and then we're going to be able to double click to collapse, double click to expand. Alright, we'll go ahead and save that, and that's our assembly.